All right. We finally made it. I am here to dance with none other than Roderick Jefferson, y'all. And we're going to be talking about the missing ingredient in sales enablement. And I know, just as a little hint, we're going to talk about some technology that has the letters A and I in it. But I also thought I'd play around a little bit, and Roderick gave me some permission to see what ChatGPT said about his particular bio. And I thought it was pretty spot on as far as what they came up with. So, according to ChatGPT, y'all, I'd like you to meet Roderick Jefferson. He is a dynamo in motion, a part strategist, part motivator, 100% let's win together, which has absolutely been my experience with him. He has a knack for turning complex challenges into action plans, and he thrives where others see roadblocks, which is, I knew something that I liked about you. Whether he's leading teams, closing deals, or just lifting up someone's mindset, he is the one who brings the energy, the clarity, and the results. He's done everything from negotiating tight contracts to architecting growth strategies that make shareholders smile and competitors sweat. Creative thinker? Yep. Relentless doer? Absolutely. And when Roderick's not busy moving mountains at work, he's likely championing mentorship, speaking on what it takes to lead in uncertain times. Anyone know some uncertain times happening? And reminding everyone that excellence is self-built. So if you want someone who delivers, inspires, and refuses to settle, then you have found Roderick Jefferson. Now, one thing you don't know or might not know that I didn't know until recently is that he nearly didn't survive a stroke that almost killed him. But it didn't just almost do that. It became a change point for him, a place where you talk about persistence, about adversity, about purpose. So I definitely want to talk about that. So please, everyone, if you don't know Roderick Jefferson, follow him, post about him, DM him, and thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you so much, Carole. Wow, I'm taking you on the road with me. That is probably the best intro that I've ever seen. That's actually better than the one that I wrote for me to step onto the stage. So thanks so much for that. And thanks for the opportunity.
I would be happy to go anywhere and introduce you all the time.
Come on, man. Let's go hit the road.
Exactly. So I know that we had initially wanted to talk about the sales enablement piece, and I definitely want to get into that. But I also am just struck by awe in your resistance, and not your resistance, but more of your grit and resilience in recovering from what you've recovered from. So can we talk about that first, and then we'll start talking about sales enablement?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you for the opportunity to talk about this. So it is my guiding star, my North Star right now, and my guiding light of life. Mm-hmm. And I sum it up in what is now become my signature keynote speech, as well as a book that I have actually in pre-sale as of last week. So, and we call it Stroke of Success. Right?
I love that.
Thank you so much. And what it's about, it's really a blueprint, if you will, for anyone that's currently navigating their journey towards that ultimate success, whatever it may mean to them, by showing, to your point, persistence, determination, grit, and realizing that all of that can be empowering, but it can also be really dangerous when it's out of balance with self-care and mindfulness. And I think that speaks to all of us, because I think we've become, first of all, comfortable with living at what I call that red line of stress. And secondly, struggling for a way to handle everything that's going on geopolitically, just globally right now. And life is a ball of stress. And for me, it was a step beyond that. It was, I had gotten into corporate for 30 years. I'd been there. I'd reached what I thought was the pinnacle. I got to senior vice president level. I had the big org. I was flying around on corporate jets and helicopters and doing all that fun stuff.
You were doing the thing.
The thing, right? But I realized quickly that I had allowed what I do to overtake who I am. And when that happens, you're done. Because we all know, rule number one, corporate America is here to make a profit, not friends. And friends are optional. But beyond that, there's this, what I'll call corporate mask that most executives put on. And it's, I'm supposed to have all the answers. I'm supposed to know how to run my team. I'm supposed to have all the answers and do everything right. No, give yourself permission to mess up and make mistakes. And when you do that, it teaches your team, your organization, everyone around you that it's not only okay to make mistakes, but it's expected.
That's the key part right there, is that we expect and anticipate and accept that you're going to make mistakes. And it's last week I was at an executive retreat and we had a roundtable on the very thing that you just described, of how what you do becomes who you are and how do you separate the two. And you're absolutely right. In corporate, that is the case. And there's a lot of people in our executive mastermind that are corporate recoveries, so to speak.
That's why I call myself a recovering corporate executive.
Yeah, exactly. And I had a very brief stint in corporate where I definitely felt that. But I also would say that even in entrepreneurship and as a business owner, it happens to us. And I think the thing that makes it so hard, especially as a business owner, like the things that I do, that it's a values based for me. It's mission based. And it's really hard to separate myself from that when I do work that I love, with people who I adore. And I get to I get to create this, but sometimes we are our worst enemies in that we can't just blame corporate for it when we're the ones, we sometimes do that to ourselves as high achievers. And I think, even to your point, like in talking about how does this relate to sales enablement? So I talk with a lot of sales enablement people, and they are some of the most, dedicated and hardest working
people. We are people by nature.
Right.
And it's why we stepped into enablement, because we love to help other people be bigger, faster, and stronger. But then I'm also reminded every time I get onto a flight, what's the first thing they say? Put your own mask on before you help somebody else. And I wish that a lot more enablement practitioners would take that philosophy in, as opposed to something about a cobbler's kids having no shoes. Something out there about that, right? And we do. We're very good at putting things out there, and it's really hard to follow it sometimes. And it's not about hypocrisy. It's because we genuinely, at least most of the enablement folks I know, we give to give. It's not about giving to get, but we overgive sometimes.
Yeah. And so, I mean, I went into this conversation thinking we will talk about the missing ingredient in sales enablement as far as it's tech or it's AI and it's these things. But, and at first I was thinking, for me, I think the missing ingredient is people, but I'm starting to feel like maybe there's another whole aspect to it that people really don't talk about. And that's what you just said, is that how do we take care of ourselves so that we can show up better for those we're trying to enable? Is that just like a crazy thought?
I know. How about that? Just craziness. And I think the problem is that enablement is in such a box, and is one of the OGs that actually created the nomenclature. I look at my baby now and I go, ooh, it hasn't grown up to be exactly what I thought it was going to be. And what I mean by that is I look at enablement very differently now. And I look at it as a mix of three things. Okay. That is IQ, EQ, and AI. Without one of those three, you're not going to be successful. We first talked about this, you're talking about the missing ingredient. It's not a single ingredient. It's a lack of balance and a mix of those three ingredients. It's like, I'm from the South. It's like gumbo, right? You got to sprinkle a little of this, a little of that. Taste it and go, yeah, it needs a little more cayenne. Yeah, it needs a little more salt. Enablement's the same way. And that's why in my book, Sales Enablement 3.0, I actually start the book off by saying, if you ask 10 people what enablement is, you will get 12 different answers. Right. And you know what? I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing, because the definition of enablement is actually dependent upon where your company is in the maturation cycle of growth for them. Right. If it's early on, it's all about getting that new customers, right? As you grow, then it's about retention. As you grow again, then it becomes continuing education and leadership coaching. As you continue to grow, then it's about succession planning. So it's a mix of all of those things. It's not one or two of them. And I'm going to go back to that word. You're going to hear me say it a lot. It's about balance.
Yeah. All right. So the missing ingredient being balance, not necessarily a technology tool, this, that. And you were, like you said, one of the OGs. And so I'm just curious, for those who might not realize it, when you first started in sales enablement, what did you think it would be, and how is it different from what it is today?
I thought that it would be expensive training,
Mm,
and it would be the fixers of broken things and broken people. And then as it has grown, I've realized, and I've taken on, and you've heard me say it before, Carol, I believe that you train animals, you enable people. And that's what it
interesting.
has become. It has now become well beyond sales enablement. And I think sales enablement, first of all, is too myopic. It does a
Hmm.
couple of things. One, it puts sales, and I'm an old sales guy, it puts sales on a pedestal above everybody else, and
Hmm.
which means everybody is underneath them as opposed to being a partner. I
Hmm.
prefer to think about go to market enablement, right? The entire buyer's journey as opposed to what's our sales process, our sales methodology, our selling motions. That and $7 will get you a latte. Nobody really cares. Go to market to me is about integrating strategies, processes, platforms, and technologies to kind of optimize the entire customer life cycle. And that's the other big change. Before it was, how do we get them through our sales process and our funnel? Now we flip
Hmm.
it. And what's changed is it's about fitting into and understanding their life cycle. And I'm talking about everything from lead gen all the way to post sales expansion and retention, right? It's also about being the hub that spokes out to every part of the organization. And I call us the translators of dialects and languages. We've got to
Hmm.
be able to speak sales, marketing, customer success, client services, rev ops, finance, HR, partners, product marketing. So then what we can do now is one, have everybody working towards a common goal of sustainable revenue, but at the same time, learning each of their languages and all of it being able to translate back into sales. So speaking German, French, Italian, etc., and then
Yeah.
being able to now translate back into sales and taking from sales and translating that into all of the other languages of the lines of business. That
Yeah.
to me is go to market enablement.
Okay. That I can absolutely get
Does
behind
that give
because,
you now
right.
a solid definition of enablement?
Yes, yes, and yes. And as I shared with you even before we started this live stream, was that, one of my pet peeves about sales enablement is that, as you said, everybody has a different definition of it, but it's always been about the tech and the sequences and how many things can we put through and what is the KPIs of it. And I understand that
Mm,
that's all part of it,
yeah.
but at the core of it, for me, it has always been about how are your systems, your processes, your enablement allowing you to create a customer experience and a buying experience that everything else is aligned around, as if
100.
your buyer and customer is the sun, that everything else revolves around sales, marketing, success, operations, you name it, because that's what business is supposed to be about.
At the end of the day, right? And I know I just said a lot of words. So let me kind of narrow this down to three things of what enablement should do. It should help to accelerate speed to revenue.
Mhm.
It should help to increase productivity per head. And it should ultimately build customers for life.
Yeah.
There's enablement right there. And yeah, you can talk about the metrics and the processes and platforms. All of those things to me are table stakes. They
Mhm.
are the tactical pieces. But if you want to talk strategically, accelerate speed to revenue, increase productivity, and build customers for life.
And it really does come down to enabling, developing, creating cultures and spaces and coaching and mentoring to enable people to grow. And I think a lot of people are getting carried away with AI is going to remove the need for sales enablement, except that we keep saying that and forgetting that human beings still want to have connection with other human beings, both inside your organization and outside of it. And so how do we create the AI enabled enablement, go to market enablement that we're talking about here? What would you say is one thing people can take away?
Yeah, before we go to that,
Hmm.
the smart ass in me is just screaming, so I've got to let him out for a little while. And I always ask people this simple question, and it sounds dumb, and you'll understand it when I ask it. Do we still have horses?
Yes.
Yes, we do. But there was a time when we created this, I don't know, automobile, And people were talking about the fact that we wouldn't need, see, there's that smile right there. You know where I'm going. They were saying, oh, we won't need horses. They'll be archaic. They'll take away all of the jobs. No, we just found a way to leverage them differently. That's exactly what's happening inside of enablement right now, right? And I think the way that I explain it is it's transforming the journey. And I think there are 7 pieces to it. There's the purpose, which is defining your sales enablement foundation. Who are we? What's our charter? Who do we serve? Why do we exist, right? Then there's the people piece. There's building the right team structure and the capability to deliver results. Ultimately, that's what we're held accountable for, right? Then there's the programs. That's the design and the delivery of everything from onboarding, training, all the way out to reinforcements and metrics. And of course, there's the platforms and the processes, right? How do you integrate the right technology? And I say the right because shiny syndrome, especially with AI right now, is going nuts. And then how do we operationalize the workflows? The next piece is how do we promote this? And I don't mean just look at me, hey, we're good. I'm talking about positioning enablement as the internal communications hub that, again, flows out to every other part. The next is your partnership, and that's building both an internal and an external ecosystem. And then the final piece is all about performance. How do you measure what matters? And then how do you adjust and iterate? And all of those things now sound like, oh, that's what we've been doing forever. Right. But that's where AI changes everything right now to make things smarter, not harder. I can go deep on this piece, or we can stay surface. But either way, all of those things that we used to do, either A, doesn't exist anymore, and secondly, definitely does not work the way that we used to do it.
Yeah. So there is one area that I want to go a little bit deeper on this. One is there's some research that I use in my book that I talk about the value of co-creation. That Harvard did a study in 2012 that they found that people are willing to pay more, value things more that they put effort into help to create, right? That it applies to our buyers, but I think it also applies to our internal teams. And I look at it as also applying to enablement, where I've had teams that I've worked with that have gone through an enablement initiative, and they feel like, where is this?
I hate that word.
I do too, which is why I use the evil quotes. And so, and one of the complaints that I would always hear is that it's not relevant to me. I don't see how it relates to how I'm working. They don't understand my job and my role. And which brings me back to how can we use AI to co-create enablement that actually gets the buy-in from the people? Can we go a little deeper on that?
Oh, well, yeah, we can go really deep. And I think it starts with 4 words. It's time to recalibrate. Because everything from reassessing your ICP and your buyer profiles, and throw those out the window, because the way it used to be, like we just talked about, we used to actually own even our own brand. We don't even own that anymore.
I know.
Right? And so now using AI to and a mix of the IQ, the EQ, and the AI. So keep that in mind as I'm walking through. To redefine and articulate the communication of the buyer's journey by working with the buyer themselves, not having marketing and product marketing determine what that is, right? Working with them and then reverse engineering everything, right? Now let's go back to that collaboration piece. Using AI to find a way to create a deeper partnership between all the lines of business. So as you are looking at your ICP, your ideal client profile, you also need to look at your IEP, your ideal employee profile, because the kind of people that you hired before and the skill sets you hired for no longer exist. I firmly believe 2 years from now, we won't have BDRs, SDRs. If you're that role, I'm sorry. But what I do think is you will now become MDRs, more marketing development reps than sales reps. Because look, let's be honest, with all the information out there, our prospects are not asking us to inform them anymore. 80% down the road before they even talk to a salesperson, right? They're not asking us to inform them anymore. There's more information out there in the stroke of a prompt in ChatGPT or Claude or whatever you do. that is better than what you'll get from your actual sales folks. So
Right.
you know what they are asking us to? Differentiate.
Yeah.
Right now, everybody sounds like blue and light blue. What's different about yours and why should I work with you? Right.
Mm-hmm.
The next thing I think with AI, it's about time to recalibrate and realign your sales methodology, your stages, and your selling motions, your tools, as well as your assets and all your collateral. All that work that everybody did and worked on doesn't matter anymore because it's dead. And you also need to do it on a much shorter scheduled basis now. We used to be able to update message and positioning once, twice, maybe a year.
Yeah, it needs to be
Not
consistent.
anymore. Because the world has shifted. It's no longer about the speed of business. It's not the speed of light. It is literally the speed of AI right now. And then the last piece goes back to what you were talking about, being able to leverage AI to recalibrate and collaborate between sales, marketing, product management, and HR and sales to update all of your processes, your platform, your revenue focused metrics even, but it all has to be tied back to the buyer's journey.
Absolutely. And what I find is interesting is that I think a lot of people right now might be thinking to themselves, oh crap, this is too much. It's overwhelming. Like all of these, we have to start all over again. But then I also see the opportunity in it because now, yes, AI is changing everything, but that's also what's giving us the tools and the ability to change at that pace.
Smarter, not harder. Right.
Right.
I remember when I ran teams and let's say we run a boot camp. It could take 3 days just to go through the tabulation of all of the feedback and all the scores. Now I can put a prompt in and boom, it's done.
Yeah.
And so to your point, I think, and I want to stop for a moment here and be very clear. AI is not for everybody at every level. Now I'll say this, if you're not using AI in some sort or fashion, you're already behind the curve. But the upside is, as I said, at the speed of AI, you can catch up quick. But because someone has suggested or a peer of yours is using a particular tool or platform does not mean it's going to work for you. They may be at a completely different maturation cycle. So I think I've got 6 things and different ways to leverage AI to increase efficiency and productivity that actually leverages all that work that you've done as opposed to throwing it all out of the window. Right?
Okay.
So to make it easier for people, let's start with streamlining lead scoring. Right. Now use AI to prioritize the leads that are likely to convert, allowing sellers to then focus their efforts on the most promising opportunities. Right. The next is the obvious that we're all doing, but I think a different way to do it. And that is automated task management. So that means leveraging AI to automate not just the repetitive tasks like data entry and scheduling and follow-ups, but what you're actually doing is giving your people more time to focus on that IQ piece that I was talking, the EQ piece that I was talking about earlier, by freeing them up to focus on more high value activities like building relationships with prospects and closing deals. Right. So now you've got that IQ, the EQ, and the AI all working continuously. The next is real-time analytics, leveraging again AI to provide sales reps with real-time analytics, not leading and lagging indicators anymore, right? And insights into their sales activities to help them identify where they can improve their performance in a moment's notice, but using data-driven decisions. No more I think and I feel. Kill that and get that out of your vocabulary.
In my last company, that's my other most hated phrase. And so you're right. I see this as the opportunity for us to, like, what is the old statistic that a salesperson on average is actually only spending maybe 30% of their time actually selling? Like, this is our opportunity.
Bump that up to 50. Think about how that turns into revenue. Just simple things, right? A couple more things. Personalized coaching, because I firmly believe, and if you're a sales leader, my apologies. I was there too. I think most sales leaders do not know how to actually coach. What they know how to do is create a mini me or teach the way they were taught, which again doesn't play anymore. Right. So
and how many sales leaders today were coached in the way that most, like, we know today? And
they don't know because they weren't coached. That's the problem, right? So
Yeah.
imagine if we could leverage AI to get rid of the peanut butter approach of everybody being equal, right?
Hmm.
Like we were taught way back. But what if you could use AI to provide personalized coaching to each of your go-to-market folks, not just sales, but your CSMs, your BDRs, your AEs, your SEs, based on actually their individual strengths and weaknesses by
Hmm.
analyzing their sales activities, like their emails, their calls, their meetings. I'm not talking about like listening to gong calls. Now, what I'm
Right.
saying is taking the sum of all parts and then creating in AI a personalized coaching plan for each of your people.
Hmm.
Imagine that. And
Yeah.
then what that does, I think, it will lead to a far more efficient sales process because now what we used to do is you go off, you make your proposals, your contracts. What if you could use AI to make those things, right? Now that again would allow your go-to-market folks to spend more time by automating and streamlining their sales process, thus reducing time and effort required to close deals. Everybody wants to close deals faster, right?
Yeah.
And then the final piece, and this always gets left out. Let's not forget about my CSMs on the back end, right? And that means leveraging AI to create not just those AI-driven chatbots, which we
Hmm.
all actually hate. At least I do.
Yeah.
I'll speak for me, right? And those virtual assistants. But what if they could actually handle some real customer inquiries, freeing up those CSMs to now handle the more complex, sticky, ugly things? And it would also make the CSM a partner with the customer as opposed to trying to be your best friend 90 days before it's time for you to re-up. That
Oh,
never
yes, your
happens
insurance
though, right?
policy is coming due again. I'm suddenly now your new best friend and going to call you
Hey,
all the
all of a
time.
sudden,
Right.
hey, are you open for lunch next Tuesday?
Yeah. Out of the
Because
blue.
your renewal is coming up. And I think this is a really important point to make, Carol, because I'm realizing that the more I talk to people, there was a time when CSMs were responsible for strict renewals. Now we're
Yeah.
asking them to handle cross-sell, upsells, and renewals. But these people were not ever taught how to sell, which is, I think, is a plus right now. They weren't even taught how to help. They were just taught how to suggest and also close
And,
renewal.
and react,
Right. And
basically.
that's not the case anymore.
Yeah. And not only that,
Well,
not
did we
only
go deep enough there, Carol?
I think we did, and we'll have to stop because this will be another whole conversation. But one last thing, because I work with CSRs and CSMs as well as salespeople, and so often leaders in organizations think that, oh, we have a renewal problem, we have a retention problem. This is a CSR problem with CSM. No. This started way back in sales, that then CSRs and CSMs have inherited, and it's how you sell in the beginning that determines
Thank
the
you.
rest of that customer journey later. And so we're putting all of this effort and pressure onto the CSRs to fix everything that happened beforehand. And it's just an impossible feat.
What if, now I'm going to talk crazy for a moment here, Carol.
I love
What
it.
if we actually tied the front and the back of the house together where the CSM actually came in earlier
Yes.
and we didn't build this big, beautiful house that we call a closed sale that then creates a short hallway where people are tread out the back door? What
Yeah,
if it was a continuous and a contiguous flow
exactly.
of partnership between front and back end? Because I've always noticed that the worst part of the entire sales cycle is the handoff between the imaginary handoff
Right.
between sales and CS.
Yes. And that's exactly where I think that because I have experienced this. I don't know anyone who hasn't experienced where you make the decision and then it's like you have to start all over again with support or sales or like, why do you people not talk to each other? How is that even possible? And everyone
They're
has had
taught to
that
not
experience.
talk to each other, which is scary.
It's even
It
that is
really
scary.
is. They're taught to be two different wings of the same house, if you will.
Yes. Sales, marketing, success, support, all of it should be in this. They should have, I see it as have pods. You target small businesses in this
Mhm.
industry, then you have a pod of people in each role whose sole focus is to create an experience that sticks.
100% agree.
Absolutely.
And then
Roderick.
who wins on that is the client, the customer.
Exactly. Right. I use this analogy is that, 50% of marriages today end in divorce for multiple reasons. And what happens is just like in sales and marketing and customer success is you have this parent over here and this parent over here, and all they're doing is fighting with each other. And who's the person who suffers? The
The kid.
kids. And in
Absolutely.
this case, our buyers, our
Yeah.
customers. And so it it is also something that I can definitely get behind as part of my own frustration. But I think that when we fix enablement, when you, as you said, have the, the ego and the emotional IQ and the AI combined together, then we can really start to change the perceptive, I think, that people have of business and how they're treated in those business, that they're no longer just a number.
IQ plus EQ plus AI.
Exactly.
That is the new business formula.
Roderick, thank you so much for joining me. I can't wait to get on the pre-sales list for your new book that's coming out, which I've heard a little bit of the story, and it's already something I know that I can relate to, having just known you for the time that I have. So thank you for this. We'll make sure that we post links to that, as well as to your AI pages and courses as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Awesome. Bye, everyone.
Take care all.